Join me today as we talk about Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 1 and 2. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobby, and today we're going to be talking about the first two episodes of Star Wars The Acolyte. Yes, we are. So, okay, so first things first, I'm recording this on the Monday after the show premiered, meaning the third episode is going to come out tomorrow, from my perspective. Now, this video is probably not going to go up until Tuesday, so later today from your perspective, if you watch this the day it comes out. I'm given to understand by advanced critics that I more or less trust, and not people that are obvious shills, that the third episode is going to completely and totally destroy any faith I have in the Star Wars franchise. If not that, the fourth one apparently will do the trick. So, I want to get this out there before that happens, and also we'll see what actually ends up happening in those two episodes. So, there's a lot of things I could talk about here. I could talk about how the woman who's the director, writer, and producer, I believe, of the show is the former assistant to Harvey Weinstein, meaning she probably knew exactly what was going on. So I'm trying to figure out why she has any job in Hollywood at all, much less handling a property that, I'm going to be blunt, she clearly doesn't know what the hell she's doing. So, yeah, I could talk about that. I'm not going to. I could talk about how the main star seems to have a number of interviews where she really comes across as she really doesn't like white people. Which is funny because she's half white. I could talk about that. I'm not going to. You want to see that? You can look up the videos. They're out there. I could talk about how the cast is, I think, entirely or almost entirely non-white. Now, I'm going to talk about that very briefly in that I don't care. Hopefully my comments have been quite clear on other things. And whenever we've talked about this topic, I care about when things are adapted and changes are made along those lines. These are, to the best of my knowledge, outside of one of the characters that I think for sure comes from the novels, and she's green, so that's irrelevant because she's green in the show. These are original characters. The Star Wars universe would naturally have more than just white British sounding people in it, presumably. So the fact that the main male character is Asian and the primary character of the show and another character are black and women, I don't care. You know, I've said before, I actually think representation is a worthwhile goal. So, it's a galaxy far, far away. Everyone doesn't have to look like me in it for me to appreciate it. So, I don't care as long as they're decent actors and actresses, and as long as they have something to work with. One of those two things is kind of right, and that's the kind of thing that we will talk about here. I can also talk about how this is pretty brazenly going along with Kathleen Kennedy's continued attempt to turn a very solidly male-dominated brand into a Disney princess brand, thus defeating the entire purpose of buying it from Disney's perspective and simultaneously crashing the brand. But I'm not going to talk about that. And there's probably other things like that I could talk about. I'm going to talk about the show itself, because there's plenty to talk about there. So, I'm just going to be upfront about this. Uh, this is not a terrible show, but it's not a very good show either. So, it's pretty thoroughly mediocre so far. Now it's the first two episodes, and maybe a criticism I've heard is correct. I'd really have to kind of rewatch some of the stuff in that. Outside of maybe Andor, the Star Wars TV shows are not designed like TV shows. They're designed like movies that happen to take place across several episodes. And so they don't work well because you're basically just watching a movie broken up into pieces that's trying to be a TV show. And again, I'd have to really rewatch, rethink to know if that's a fair criticism, but I feel like that person might have been onto something. So we'll see. But anyway, on to the show itself. Now, there's definitely going to be spoilers because I'm going to be talking about things that happen in the show. Now, for those of you who watched our videos about the Ahsoka series, you know that by and large we found the show entertaining, but it definitely had some issues. And it seems like some of those issues are still here. Now, this show is probably well underway in production. It would have been difficult to buff out those problems, but I'm beginning to seriously suspect that Disney's entire perspective is that the Republic, be it the old, the high, or the new, is just the most monumentally stupid form of government known to man. Which makes the desire to overthrow the Empire and restore the Republic, and then overthrow the First Order and restore the Republic, to be some of the dumbest moves people could ever possibly make. I mean, the Republic is depicted as thoroughly incompetent in every aspect of Disney Star Wars. It doesn't matter which version of the Republic it is. So I have no idea why anyone's fighting to restore the Republic. Like, they should have just found some way to coexist with the Empire. I mean, Palpatine was a simple man, just wanted simple things, like galactic domination, one biome for one planet, none of this actual planetary diversity baloney. But anyway, so I say that because there's going to be some things that happen in this episode that would lead one to believe that the Republic and or the Jedi Order is just completely incompetent. So, here we go. The show opens up with the main villain, kind of, maybe? I don't know. Who the hell knows where anyone stands in any of this? Showing up and challenging Carrie-Anne Moss's character. She's a Jedi Master. Don't grow too attached to her. This is kind of like the using Sean Bean to advertise Game of Thrones thing. Only she's not going to last the season. She's not going to last the episode. She's not going to last 10 minutes into the episode. She saunters in to the bar and throws down the gauntlet and is basically like, hey, we've got beef. Attack me with everything you've got. Now, that's not exactly how she phrases it, but that's essentially what she says. Now, a lot of people criticize this dialogue and say it's stupid. It is, but it also is the kind of baloney someone in Star Wars would say. So, it does kind of fit. But it still sounds stupid. So yeah, then the fight ensues, and the girl who's like 90 pounds soaking wet manages to just floor everyone in the place until she comes to Carrie-Anne Moss, who is very easily defeating her until she does something incredibly obvious that Carrie-Anne Moss clearly knows what she's about to do. There's one dude left, the bartender, and so the girl pulls out a knife and throws it at him. And Carrie-Anne Moss becomes totally engrossed in trying to stop the knife in midair, instead of just throwing her up against the wall before she ever threw it, because it was clear what she was going to do. It's clear Karen Moss knew what she was going to do. And so instead, she gets hit with the other knife in the heart. I'm going to be blunt. She deserved to die. She was stupid. Like, she could have ended that fight at any moment, and instead chose to do something monumentally stupid. Now, in fairness, she probably thought her opponent was completely a non-threat because of how much she was dominating her. But still, you don't turn your back on an armed opponent. Or side, or whatever you want to say. So then we cut to a Trade Federation ship. Good to see the Neomodians again. And their love of just ridiculously excessive flamboyant hats. And apparently there's some subplot here where they're employing people to go outside into space to fix problems on the outside of the ships instead of sending droids. And because they have to try to keep putting their stamp on things and creating new things that are stupid, they call these people mechanics instead of mechanics. Your guess is as good as mine as to why they chose to go that route, considering it's really stupid. So yeah, so they go outside to fix a problem on the ship, and then the outside of the ship catches on fire. In space. So, yeah. Now, I could be generous, and I could say maybe the fire is being fueled by gases from inside the ship. I believe physics says that's a possibility, so, maybe. I'm sure that's clearly the intent. But still, it's fire out in space. It looks stupid. Because, Star Wars is real tight on the physics. So, yeah, and she has a flashback to some baloney that happened, and then a Jedi starfighter shows up, her ship. It's a big starfighter. And two Jedi come on board. They deal with the captain. The guy, whose name totally escapes me, it's something short. He looks like he's going to, force choke or, use the force to rip the knowledge out of the guy's mind or something, and essentially some things that are not overly Jedi-like. And the second in command just gives up the information willingly instead. So then they go and they're waiting in the girls' quarters, and oh yeah, by the way, she looks exactly like the assassin from earlier in the episode. Just in case you didn't see the preview that blows the spoiler that they're twins. Spoiler, they're twins. So the Jedi are like, well, even though we know you because you trained at the temple, and we would know that there's no possible way you possess the skill to do what was done, plus you left the Order 6 years ago and haven't trained since, and you presumably have an alibi since you never left the ship and she was killed down on the planet. Yeah, we got to arrest you. We apparently have the power to do that, just based on the say-so of eyewitness testimony, which is known to be horribly unreliable. And, yeah, so they arrest her. Now, they don't take her with her. They put her on a Republic prison transport ship. Now, she's just been accused of doing this thing. There's been no trial, no nothing. And she's put on here with prisoners who presumably have been put on trial. And, yeah. So that was a stupid mistake. The Jedi should have just taken her with them. It should also be noted that the two Jedi who show up here are a knight and an apprentice. And they're going after a woman who supposedly killed a Jedi Master. So, they probably should have sent a Jedi Master or two, since clearly they're dealing with a dangerous opponent, instead of a knight and their apprentice, who would be less powerful, and it would stand to reason could be beaten by said assassin, especially when they don't try to sneak up or anything. They just kind of, show up. And, Yeah, that was really, really dumb. Like I said, the show goes out of its way to depict the Jedi and the Republic as fools and morons. So, yeah. And then we go to board the prison transport ship, which has exactly one security droid. That's to deal with all the prisoners on board. One of which has a like massive tentacle thing that can shoot out of its forehead and reach quite far outside of the cell, which doesn't have a force field or anything. It's just bars. Now, I will say there's one of the things I did think was kind of cool here. The autopilot droids, once they're deactivated, like collapse back into just becoming the chairs that the pilots can sit in. I did think that was kind of cool. So I'm going to give the show credit for that. And I did think the fight was decent at the beginning of the episode. I just wish we would have gotten more of Carrie Ann Moss because she can actually act, and we know she can play a Jedi because she basically did in the Matrix. So you know, but yeah, then the prisoners bust out, take the escape pods. The ship crashes. She survives because she put on her seatbelt, and yeah, it's then they would cut to the Jedi Temple where the guy, excuse me, the guy from Squid Games is there. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Uh, and just a quick note, he deserved way better than this show. The man learned English to get this part. He deserved better. He is the highlight of this show thus far. He is a Qui-Gon Jinn-esque character who is very much yeah, well, the Jedi, you're supposed to do this, but guys, we're not robots. We do have attachments. We just can't become obsessed with them. We need to study the past. We don't just need to live in it. Very practical approaches to things versus dogma. And yeah, he's the entire reason I'm probably going to keep watching the show. Also, can't wait for Squid Game Season 2. So anyway, yeah, so he's like, well, she used to be my apprentice. I'll go check and see if she's still alive. I'm like, all right, we'll take some people with you, which include the Jedi Knight they sent out. So the guy who has already made it back to Coruscant, who would have had her with him if he was smart. So she would already be there. So he'd already be dealing with, trying to clear things up. And yeah, so he takes him and a couple others, and they head out. They go to find her. They find her, and she's like, hey, my twin sister's still alive. He's like, all right, I believe you. And so he stops treating her like a prisoner. And then we get to episode 2. Oh, yeah, by the way, we get to see that the sister is working for a bad guy in a face mask with a digitized voice with a red lightsaber who is presumably a Sith or a Sith wannabe. And then he has some nonsense line about, oh, you don't kill the Jedi with lasers and blades, but an acolyte. So I'm really, really hoping that somehow in the remaining 6 episodes, that line makes some kind of sense. Because right now, it is nonsense. So, because no, in fact, she used blades and killed Trinity. And it's going to use a weapon to kill the guy in the next episode. And if she could, would probably be using a lightsaber to kill them all. So, you do actually use those things to kill Jedi. Unless he's talking in a far, far more metaphorical to kill the Jedi, as in the Order, which we know won't happen because the other movies exist. So, anyway, and speaking of that, this show is going to have to thread a very careful needle. The Jedi cannot learn about the person training her if he's a Sith Lord. Because, as of the Phantom Menace, the Jedi think that the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years, not 100 years. So, anyone he meets has to die before they tell anyone else. Or you're going to go against canon. Not that Disney cares about that, but, some of the remaining fans actually do. So, anyway, into episode 2. Our girl, May, I believe is her name, goes and tries to kill another Jedi Master at another temple on another planet. And he's been like meditating for 10 years, which raises a lot of questions like, does he eat or drink or do the natural byproducts of eating and drinking? Has he just been sitting there for 10 years? Is the one Jedi that shows up eating all of his food, because he definitely looks like he is. I'm pretty sure he's the only Jedi who has a higher cholesterol count than a midichlorian count. And, yeah. So, I will again, credit where credit's due. It is nice to see that there are other Jedi temples beyond the one on Coruscant in this era. And that's one thing that, people should see to understand why the Jedi ultimately fall in the prequel trilogy. And part of it is the fact that they just completely withdrew to the temple on Coruscant and tried to maintain everything from there instead of having other temples and other councils and dealing with local affairs instead of only dealing with galactic level affairs. So, yeah, she manages to break into the temple relatively easily, tries to fight the guy, gives her a spiel, oh, hey, with everything you got, and, he doesn't do anything. Then she just tries to punch him, and there's like a force field or something. So she leaves out through the skylight. They know someone broke in. They know this dude's just sitting there. They know she was there in the room. And they can clearly see that the ceiling is just wide open. And they do nothing at all to prevent her from coming back. And the second time, she doesn't bother with all the subterfuge. She just comes in through the hole in the ceiling, as one would expect anyone with half a brain to do. Again, the Jedi and the Republic look utterly incompetent. So she comes back. She goes and meets her poison guy, who current speculation says he may or may not actually be the Sith Lord, because he knows basically everything that's going on. And at the end of the episode, when she comes back, she's like, oh, you betrayed me. He very, very easily disarms her and holds her. This is the person that killed a Jedi Master earlier. And he doesn't appear to have any kind of training, skills, etc. And he just manhandles her like she's nothing. So, could be the case. So anyway, he cooks up some poison for her. She takes it to the guy, and he comes out of his trance and says, I'm sorry, and drinks the poison. Sure, that's a thing that could happen, I suppose. Apparently, there were some Jedi on her home world. Her family all died in a fire, or so she believed. Squid Games guy said that the sister started the fire, the dark side sister, and believed that she was dead, and that only Osha, she's the not dark side twin, was left alive. So clearly something else happened. That's our core mystery. There's no murder mystery here. And yeah, we learned nothing from this guy's death except that he's sorry and apparently thought he deserved to die, so he gulps down the poison and then dies. And yeah, the rest of the episode is basically trying to find her. And well, he used poison. Let's go talk to the local apothecary. Oh, hey, wait, that's not the normal guy, because he killed the normal guy and took his place. And, well, that would be like the local bartender being killed and replaced by someone else and expecting no one to notice. People tend to notice people that run things locally. So, yeah. Then some more stupid things happen. They're like, hey, let's send the one twin in. Let's send the good twin in, Osha. See what happens. And it's like, well, she doesn't know the first thing about her sister's current mood, modus operandi, anything. And this guy is one of her associates who would know. So, yeah, I'm sure he won't notice at all. Takes him all of 5 seconds to figure it out. which point he becomes a little bit more menacing, adding fuel to the fire of he's probably the main bad guy. Because one, he knows that she has a twin sister, you know. So anyway, because May also thinks that Osha is dead. And that's why she's out to kill the Jedi. So then she sees her at the end of the episode, which should negate her desire to destroy the Jedi, because her sister's still alive. And also, supposedly, she's the one who started the fire, so yeah. Anyway, we'll find about that in the next episode, I'm sure. So then Squid Game shows up with the other Jedi. They fight her a little bit. And then she's like, oh, hey, there's all this loose dust on the ground. Use the Force to make a dust cloud and run away. And no one will think to use the Force to make not a dust cloud. Or use Force speed to catch up to me. But no one ever remembers Force speed, so, you know. Yeah. So then the episode, you know, just kind of ends. And, well, here we are. So, like I said, it's not terrible. But it's not great either. Like, it's mediocre. Alright? I'm not going to sit here and say that if you like it, you're wrong somehow. This is purely my opinion. If you like it, more power to you. I do plan on watching the series to see how it all pans out. I am still very foolishly hopeful that it will somehow improve. I doubt it will, but I hope that it will. Squid Game guy is easily the character that I'm pulling for, rooting for, want to know more about. I'm kind of hoping everyone else dies in a misjump of the hyperdrive. But anyway, character-wise, the main actress, her good character, Osha, you know, she's not annoying. She's serviceable, you know, seems to be okay. Her evil character, less so, a little bit more annoying. Like I said, Squid Games is pulling everything together here. The green lady back at the temple, something just looks off about her to me. I don't know what it is. It's something visual, just not quite lining up. I know nothing about her character because I'm not going to read the trash High Republic books. Because I'm not going to indulge in Disney's stupid EU. So, let's see. There's the younger Jedi that's within the night that went to go arrest Osha. Oh, I forgot to mention the thing I planned on not talking about with him. In 2 separate interviews, he claimed Anakin Skywalker blew up the Death Star. In at least one of those 2 interviews, one of his coworkers told him, you should shut up now. So, at least one of them had the good sense to have watched the movies before. So, yeah. He's one of those, I'm a fan, like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Quit lying. Just say you're not. Like, no one's gonna be upset if you're like, no, it was just a role, I took it. Meanwhile, Squid Games is over here like, I want this role so bad I'm gonna learn English. Like, he deserves better than this. He deserved to be in like The Mandalorian season 1 or 2 where it was good, or Andor season 2 or something. Like, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's not great. It's watchable, but it's not great. So I guess we'll see Tuesday night just how calamitous episode 3 is, if the reports are true or not. So anyway, if you have watched the show, let me know what you think down in the comments. If you do actually like it, I'd kind of like to know. If you think I'm being overly harsh towards it, you know, or not harsh enough. If there's anything I missed, because this is not, you know, it's not a comprehensive list of faults. I did list most of the things I liked. I do. A lot of people say it looks cheap. I don't really get that vibe from it. It looks like Star Wars to me. There's been complaints about the costumes. I'm really not seeing it. And like, I've made my point clear that I'm not a huge fan thus far. So whenever I say these things are not terrible, hopefully you can take my word for it. to know that I'm not just shilling for Disney randomly. Um, I mean, the effects so far look, competent. Like I said, it looks like Star Wars. This looks like the galaxy that could exist a little bit before the Phantom Menace, in my opinion. Um, Now, I know the Neomodians was a choice because we're leading into the Phantom Menace. I'm sure that had something to do with it. I hope we don't randomly go to Naboo and see the Gungans, and we don't need that. We also sure as the hell don't need to go to Tatooine. So, but like I said, it looks like this is the universe that could become Star Wars in the time of the Phantom Menace, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, there still could be things that are good about what's coming. Um, they're definitely in the unknown category though. So let's see how it pans out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It's YouTube. You know how it goes. Got to beg here at the end of the video. But anyway, remember, folks, may the Force be with you always.